Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Addie. For anyone who is new here, I have a little baby who just turned 5 months old, and over the past month, since 4 months or so, we've been really working on grasping. So today's video, I just thought I would share some ways that have helped us work on the grasping skills and how to help baby grasp, basically, because those are skills that you're gonna need obviously all through life. You need to be able to use your hands, and especially as they start to eat solid foods around 6 months, you want them to be developing this pincer grasp. And so that's basically what we're working towards. And if you have never done baby-led weaning, like that uses that, I'll link a video for you. But if you want to look into that. But anyway, 4 months is when babies start to develop the binocular vision, which is when the eyes start working together to take in depth, and it starts to make that reaching and grasping possible for them. So that's why around 4 months-ish is when it's a good time to, help them figure grasping out. Now, if you don't do anything, they still will probably figure grasping out. But if you want to help them along, these are some tips. So to start out, you can just put things in their hands, and they have that kind of reflex that will grab things. So just get them used to the idea of holding things. You can put a rattle in their hands. That way when they move, it kind of shakes and it makes them aware that something's in their hand. You could do crinkle paper, just like ring or disc or something. So you can do, whatever. I like musical things so that it kind of just like makes them aware, not musical, but things that make noise, so that it kind of makes them, aware that something is different. It's not just the reflex that's happening, they're holding something. And even though they're babies, like talking to them and telling them what something is, or showing them you holding the object and shaking it, like demoing how it should work, those are good things to do. Even with babies, even though they don't quite understand you, it's still really good. It helps their vocabulary, helps their brains develop. It shows them like cause and effect. Like it's just really good to demo and show them how to do something and model it. So doing that first and then putting it in their hand, even if they don't, react to that right away, over time they might. And basically, like when you're starting to do this, just keep their hands busy. If you're in a stroller or something, put something they could reach for. Even if they can't reach it and grab it at that time, just put something there that gives them, the want to do so. I have this little swing here. It has some built-in things that they could grab. So that is something, that she could see and maybe hold while she's in this, something like that. A play gym, just wherever they are, just give them the opportunity to keep their hands busy and full, to start to understand what that is. Early on, when they are doing this and they're developing this skill, grabbing things is going to be a lot of trial and error. Sometimes they're going to reach for something and miss. Sometimes they're going to try to grab it, but they can't pick it up. So during that time, what I like to do is get a little basket, and you can put like a little toy in there so that they can bump or push the item against the wall to keep it close to them so it doesn't get too far, so that they can actually, pick it up. It just helps them grasp it with the use of a container. Another way that they can start to grasp some things is by laying them on their side. And if they don't stay on their side, maybe you can roll a towel behind their back to keep them, on their side. And then put an object. You could either put it in their hands if they're not grasping yet, and they'll probably naturally bring it to their midline. And that is really good for them because it stimulates both sides of their brain when they're doing that. So that's another great way to do it. And then you can, once they're grabbing for things, you can keep them on their side and then they can reach for what's there. But that's a really, really good thing to do. Just like let them lay on their side and let them stimulate both parts of their brain that way. And then once they kind of master like the grasping a little bit better, you can start to just dangle things in front of them. So sit them on your lap and then put an object in front of them and let them reach for the object. They might miss a couple times, and that's okay. They're still, working on that vision and aim, but eventually they will get it, and that'll be really good for them. So you want to avoid putting it in their hand. You want to let them keep trying, keep missing until they, get it. Missing is huge. Every time they miss, their brain, it's sending signals to their brain telling them to adjust. And if you don't let them miss, they're not gonna get that message to their brain. So it's really important for them to miss and correct and learn you know, how to grasp. So be patient unless they're like, you know, getting so frustrated that maybe it's time to take a break, but they should eventually, you know, be able to reach and get it after a few tries. You can also put a few toys in front of them at tummy time, and hopefully they'll start, you know, pushing up and starting to grab at one or two of the toys. And if they're just learning and kind of new at this, maybe you don't put them on the floor for tummy time, but you put them up on a boppy so that their arms are free, because if they don't have that strength to hold themselves up with one hand and reach for another, it might be hard. So letting their chest be on a boppy so that your hands are free to grab might be good. And you want to make sure that you put the toys where they can reach them. We're not trying to entice them to crawl. We're trying to literally help them grab objects. Like that has to come first. So you don't want to put them too far where they can't reach them. They're not going to crawl at this young. That's not like the point of this. Unless yours is crawling, as some babies are bionic. So maybe yours is, and then you can start doing some crawling exercises, but we're just talking about grasping today. So just make sure it's where they can reach it so they do not get frustrated. And then I mentioned earlier, play gyms. Those are great. Just dangle some objects. You want to give them stuff they can touch with their hands, but also stuff they can touch with their feet, because that sensory experience with both hands and feet is how they explore and how they learn. Their feet, their hands, their mouth are all important for that. And it's gonna help them with object recognition, cause and effect, and just so many other things. So let them just have some time under that activity gym and, you know, play away. Another thing that is really good for the grasping concept is the ability to move something from one hand to the other. That's something obviously we do day to day, but babies have to learn that. So there is something that I really like for that, and it's called an interlocking disc. And basically they can hold it with one hand and transfer it to the other and back and forth, and it comes apart and they can put it together eventually. But that is a really good tool that uses and helps them transfer, because a lot of times when they first start learning this, they don't know that things can go from one hand to the other. They just keep it in one hand and they may drop it. So that is a skill that you have to learn. So an interlocking disc works really well to help teach that. And eventually so when they're starting out, they're gonna be reaching with two hands for the same object. Eventually they're gonna start reaching one hand for an object. And when they get good at that and they're starting to do one-handed, you can do two objects and see if you can use both hands simultaneously. That's another like huge milestone in the grasping concept. So being able to let them reach for things with two hands once they kind of get the other steps is another thing to try out. And if they don't reach for both, that's okay too, because they're also learning about choice. Like maybe you have two objects and they're choosing which one they want the best, and they only take one. Maybe sometimes they will take two, but not taking two is learning about choice and learning something else too. So don't force, you know, if they are only choosing one. All right, well, that is some tips and hopefully exercises that you can do with your baby to help them with those grasping skills. Of course, over the next couple months, like after maybe they're getting 5 months, you can start doing smaller objects, maybe encouraging some of those, probably not these two fingers yet, but maybe just like this motion rather than the whole hand. And that'll help them with food, you know, over the next couple months, developing that little grasp. So right now, working on this, eventually they'll work on this, and hopefully that these exercises help you into getting there. So I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.